Hello! Do you want a channel point redeem for your streams that allows viewers to keep a record, or streak if you will, of the number of streams they've attended? I have come up with a way using SAMMI Core, and I want to show you exactly how. So this idea is not unlike the streak that Twitch automatically records for your subscribers. Only my thinking behind this tutorial was to get all viewers involved, whether they can or want to pay for a subscription or not. It simply allows you to create a channel point redeem that can be triggered once per user per stream. That increments a number assigned to the username by 1. The streak never resets. This is supposed to be something fun for your stream after all, okay? Now, the concept is simple, but you'll need a program called SAMMI Core to actually implement it. I'll stick a link up to SAMMI in the description of the video, but setting it up is really something to be covered in its own video. Now, thankfully, Twitch tutorial legend Nutty released his own video on setting up SAMMI just this week, so I'll also link to that in the description. I mean, what fortunate timing for all of us, so you can go watch that. Oh, and please forgive how scruffy this video is. I'm really not used to making tutorials, so, you know, bear with me. Anyway, with SAMMI set up, let's get on with the video. Okay, so once you've set up SAMMI, you should get a window like this, minus, of course, the this little Twitch triggers deck here. That's my own deck that I use for my streaming. Which I've disabled for the time being because we're not going to be using it. We're going to actually click on this plus icon here and select add a new deck. And that will create a new deck, surprisingly enough, which we can just double click on again and it'll bring up a grid. If you want to resize the grid, change it to a different number of tiles, you can just do so in the X and Y boxes here. Make things nice and easy to see for this tutorial. Let's make it 5 by 5. What we're going to do is we're going to make 2 buttons for this. The first button, you'll probably only ever use once, but it's good to keep it around just in case you ever need to set this up again. The first button is going to create a CSV file for the command, the main command, should I say, to read from. A CSV file is, what does it stand for? Comma separated values, I think that's what it stands for. It's basically a plain text file. It's going to be, it'll be a list of all the different users and their streaks. And this, like I say, this is the initialization of it, the initial setup of it. So just choose any box and double click it. And it will create an empty button like that. Right click, edit commands, and it'll take us to this screen here. Now, the idea behind this tutorial is I'm going to show you not only how to create this command, but also why we take each step. So I'm going to do my best to explain it. If you need anything explained further, feel free to leave a comment by all means. I'll do my best to answer it. I'm not an absolute expert, but I'll do my absolute best. But the first thing you need to do, and the plus icon basically lets you add a line of code essentially, or a command. It'll bring up this menu. We're going to go down to file management, and then down to the CSV files. And we are going to be creating the file first of all. We need to give it a name. I'm just going to call it tutorial. Call it whatever you want. Something. Give it a name that you're going to be able to recognize so you don't accidentally delete it further down the line, right? And the first column, basically, what we're going to think of it, we think of it like, you know, like an Excel file where you've got rows and columns. Any kind of database. Well, not a database, but you know. Any sort of, an array. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. It's an array creating with columns and rows. So when we're creating a CSV file, it wants to know the name of the first column we're making. I'm going to call that Twitch name because we're going to store the username of an individual Twitch user there. So that's what I'm calling that particular column, okay? This column here, the delay in milliseconds, that is how long SAMMI waits after this command to go to the next command on the list. We can leave this at 0. But if you ever want to mess with that, that's what that does. So once we've got this, so we just click the plus button to make the next command. Back to file management. Then we're going to CSV, add a column, add columns. All right, you can add several at once. 3, I think. Yeah, 3. We're only going to add the one. So it is asking for the CSV name, which has got to be now the same as what we entered in that first step. Otherwise, we're writing to nothing. And I'm going to name the second column streak. I know the text has overlapped here a bit. Let's see if I can stretch this out a bit. That's better, isn't it? That's center. There we go. The default value for the new column is 0. Like I say, if you wanted to add any other columns, you can do 3 at a time and then repeat the command for any more columns after that. But we are only creating the one extra column. So we're going to have 2 columns, Twitch name and streak. Again, the delay is left to 0. And I think for this entire tutorial, we are going to leave them at 0. Again, file management down to CSV. We have the save command. Where is it? Save. Again, the CSV name. And again, we've got to enter the exact same CSV name. If you ever find something's going wrong with this file, or with this, should I say the command or anything, check your spelling. Make sure if you've entered a name somewhere that the same name is being used elsewhere, no spelling mistakes, no typos, nothing like that. That, I reckon, will save you a lot of pressing and fussing. First thing to do whenever debugging something is check your spelling. The second piece of information we need to enter into this section is the file path. Now, whenever we're entering a variable name, we need to surround it with a / and then a $sign. And you'll see there it's auto-filled with a $sign and a / at the end. And what we're going to type in there is global to let the program know this is a global variable. In other words, it's a variable that's within use within the whole program rather than just locally to this command. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it for now. It's something you can look up later. Global.main directory. What global.main directory, what that variable is that variable's pointing towards the install location of SAMMI. So we're telling it to save this file into the main SAMMI directory, and that's probably the best place for it. If you want to put it elsewhere, by all means, go off the script for this one and put it wherever you want, but I'm using the SAMMI directory, because I know as long as I'm using SAMMI, I'm not going to be deleting that folder. And then the file path, we'll call it tutorial.csv. So again, we're taking the data that we created for tutorial, saving it to tutorial.csv in the main SAMMI directory. That's what that command does. Plus icon one more time for this command. File management. Then it's right there. Unload is what we want. And then just put tutorial or whatever your CSV's names is just one more time there. And what that does is it takes all the data that we created using this command and dumps it out of memory. Because we've saved it already. As long as we've saved it, it's all good. It's not unloading, it's not deleting anything within that file. It is just unloading what we've got in memory to basically stop memory leaks. That's an important step, actually, when dealing with CSV files within SAMMI. So don't forget that. Close off anything like that. So we are going to actually save and close that. Right-click it again. Go to Edit Appearance. You can change the color of the button if you wish. Why not? Let's make it a nice green. And we're going to call it init streak CSV. Call it what you want. Call it what you want. If you want to give it an image, you can give it an image through that. Doesn't matter. Save. There we have a button called initialize streak CSV. If I right click that and go one more time to edit commands, see here we have a button that says run button. Left click it once, button executed, CSV tutorial was unloaded. So we know it's gone through each step and done everything there. So what you can do now is go to the SAMMI install directory. Within the main SAMMI install directory now, we should see a CSV file named tutorial. There's my real one, in case you're wondering. But there's our tutorial CSV. And if you open it up, just in Notepad, Notepad's fine. You'll see here we got 2 columns, Twitch name, streak, and it's created a default value right there. That's the initialization of the main file done and dusted. Like I say, keep the button around just in case you ever need to create the file again, in case it gets deleted or you need to reinitialize it or anything. I would recommend always backing up the file. Once in a while, back up the file, especially if you're using it a lot and you've got a lot of entries. But anyway, what we're going to do now is create the main command that's going to run on stream. But before we create the button, what we actually need to do first is you need to go into your Twitch channel points, assuming we are going to be using channel points to redeem this, which I am anyway, and then manage rewards and challenges. You are going to create a new custom reward. Hopefully you know how to do this, but in case you don't, add a new custom reward. I'm going to just name this tutorial. You name it what you want. My real one's called Checking In. Created for the Stream Streak tutorial. Just enter anything. I'm going to make it cost 1 for now. I'll leave everything else unchanged for now. We will be coming back to this at the end. Great. There it is, tutorial. Okay, cool. Nice that. We are going to create a second button. Right click. This time, first thing we're going to do is edit the trigger. The triggers are what causes the button to activate. Plus icon. We've got the Twitch triggers down here. So because I want it to activate on channel points, I'm going to select the channel points option. I'm going to click load from Twitch API just to make sure it has picked up all the channel point rewards from Twitch, which should now be listed here. So there's my real one that I use on the actual stream. I'm looking for tutorial. There it is, tutorial right there. Select that. We don't need anything else for now. In fact, for this tutorial, we don't need anything else here. So we're just going to save it. Right click, edit commands. Now this one is going to be significantly more complicated than the last button. Okay, I'm going to actually just replicate the one I use for real on my streams. So the first command is going to pull the data of who just triggered that reward. So once we click the plus icon, we're going to go to numbers, text and variables, and we shall see trigger pull data. Like I say, we're getting information about what's triggered this command. We're going to save this variable as, I'm calling it user_streaking. Again, whatever you want. As long as it's memorable, as long as you know what it's talking about. The best way to name variables descriptively. So when you look at a variable, you know what it is. Don't just call it A or B or something else, variable one. Don't do that. Make sure it's a descriptive term, because otherwise, once a few are in use, it's going to get confusing. Anyway, pull value is Twitch channel point username. There we go. That's what we want. So basically, we're saving the username, the Twitch username of the person who triggered the button into the variable user streaking. So whenever we reference now user streaking, it is going to be the Twitch username of the person who redeemed it. Okay? That's what that command does. Next thing to do, file management. We are going to load that CSV we created before. So CSV load within file management. Again, I'm going to use, we don't have to use this. We can use a brand new variable name now, but I'm going to go back to the tutorial. And the file path is going to be what we entered before. So it has to be exact as well. We're telling it we're going to be using a variable as part of this string. Global.main_directory. That's right, wasn't it? Yeah. And then the file name was tutorial.csv. This has to be exactly the same as what we saved it to in that first button. It can't be different, otherwise the program will not find it, and you'll be trying to load nothing at that point. It won't work. Again, if you're having problems, go through all of these variables, check the spellings, check they all match up. Next command. Again, file management, we're going down to CSV, and it will be going to find the value set in one of the columns. So again, we enter tutorial, because that's the name of the variable we've given for the CSV. That's where all the data is stored now for this CSV. Yellow boxes within SAMMI they indicate that we're entering a variable name, but if we have to enter some free text, like a free, just a string, we have to surround it in quotation marks, speech marks. If you were just entering a number in there, because you could enter, technically, because we know Twitch name is the first column, we could just enter 0 here like that, and we would get the same response as entering Twitch name. But because we're using the actual proper string for its name, I've got to put it in quotation marks. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and what we're going to do now, if we're in a white box, we've got to surround any variables with $. I'm going to keep repeating that because it's important, and it's something I fell foul of when I was first learning this. We're going to look for the variable user streaking and then save it to, I'm going to call it check. So what this does, it looks in the data we have saved for the CSV file, which we've saved as tutorial. It is looking for a column named Twitch name, and then it's going to go down that column and it's going to see if it can find the variable user streaking. Now we've set user streaking as the username of the person who's triggered the button. You know, redeem the reward, the point reward. So, for instance, if I was to redeem this, what would happen is that it would pull the data, it would save my username, which is Mr. Tom FTW, user streaking. This command then would look at the variable user streaking and go, oh, that's Mr. Tom FTW. Let's find him in this column. And then it saves it. It saves the result of that to a variable called check. Now, what check is going to read as is a number. So what we're going to do next is we're going to figure out what check is, what it's been returned as. Okay, so we want numbers, text, and variables, okay? And then we're going to create an if statement. So if check equals -1. Check will equal -1 if it is checked for that name and has not found it. So -1 equals not found. We have looked for Mr. Tom FTW. It is not on the list. Therefore, it is returned -1 to the variable check. And then, if check is -1, we're going to add a command to this if statement. You see it. If we go just here, not into else, just above else, we got it. It drops down another couple of these buttons. So we're going to press plus here. We're going to go to file management again. CSV add row. So we are adding a row to the tutorial CSV, which is why we're entering that in there. And the first box value is going to be, you see if you guess what it is? It's going to be user streaking. Why? Because basically we said, is the name of the person who's triggered this point reward there? If it isn't, we're going to add them to the CSV as a new user. That's the entirety of that particular if statement. We're going to leave that if statement alone and go file management again. Next one we're going to make is getBox. What getBox does is we're going to basically give it 2 coordinates, I guess. And we're going to ask it, in this coordinate within the array that we created, what is in this one particular box? So again, tutorial, or whatever you've named your CSV, column name / number. So you're going to look for streak. Row name / number is user streaking. Okay, you'll notice I haven't put the $$ on either side of the variable name because, like I say, when it's a yellow box, it's expecting either a number or a variable. So we don't have to tell it it's a variable. Again, I've put the quotation marks around streak because it's a string. It's just a bit of free text there. We've given it a column to look in, which is streak, and we've given a user streaking, which, regardless of whether it was there or not when this person triggered it, it's going to have been created by the if statement. So it will exist at this point. Let's save it as I'll call it user streak. Oh yeah, and I'm going to make a purposeful error here and then go back and fix it once I've showed you what the error does. Just as a kind of a learning thing, 'cause it's something I tripped over. And I think the proper way for me to show how to avoid this error that I made is to actually actually force that error and show you how to fix it. So the next step then, what we're going to do is we're going to take it'll be a number that's saved within this variable. And we're going to add 1 to it. So plus numbers, text, and variables. Let's set local variable. The variable name is going to be user streak, because that's the one what we just got. The operator we're going to use is a plus equals. What that means is it's going to take the number that's already there and add this number here, 1. So 0 plus 1 equals 1. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 1 equals 3, etc. Basically, when you've triggered it, we're adding 1 to the streak. Next command. We're going to file management, CSV set box. So I'm going to resize this window again. We're going down further and further. And where's the little? There it is. Our CSV column name / number again is streak. Again, user streaking. And again, no need for the /$ there because it is a yellow box. Therefore, it's looking for a variable equals. So this box at streak user streaking is going to now equal user streak, which again, I will remind you, we've just added 1, 2. Next is going to be a Twitch command. I'm going to send message, and it will send a message using the Twitch account you've attached to SAMMI, which you will have done while setting up SAMMI. Hopefully you followed that video that I've linked to, or I've otherwise set it up. Send chat message. The chat message will be, I don't know, let's write something. Hey fans, user streaking is now on a streak of user streak streams. Thanks. So what that's done is we've basically written out a chat message and we've put these variables in, so it'll substitute these variables here for, well, in my case it'll be Mr. Tom FTW, and on the streak of this variable here, which will be your user streak, and that will display just as a normal chat message. We're going to leave this one blank because it's obviously just a default there. You'll see your username there. Again, whatever you link to SAMMI is going to display there, so leave it blank unless you really want to change it. I'm going to go to file management again. I'm going to save the CSV. We're going to unload. We're going to do exactly what we did with that first button. So it was global. Oh my God, Tom! You could just copy and paste this from the window above, really, but save it to tutorial.csv. Unload it as we did in the previous one, and then also we're going to, within numbers, text, and variables, you're going to go ahead and delete variable. There it is. And I'll leave that to all, so it's going to delete all the variables we had. Okay, and then that's done. We can save and close. Save, and we go back to this screen. Now, any changes you make will not take effect until we've saved all the way out back to this screen. So whenever you're testing something like, whenever you're testing a button within SAMMI, if you haven't saved all the way out to this screen here, it's not going to take an effect. All right. So what we're going to do is test it out. Let's redeem a reward. We'll see. Look, there's the one we just created. Tutorial. So when we redeem it, what do we get? Hey fans, Mr. Tom FTW. That's me. That's who redeemed the reward. Is now on a streak of 0, 1 streams. Thanks. 0, 1's a little odd that it's put a 0 at the front of that, isn't it? Okay, but that's still a number, right? What happens if we redeem it again? So that should be 0, 2, surely? Hey fans, Mr. Tom FTW is now on a streak of 0, 11 streams? Thanks. What's that about? Open the file. Sure enough, it's added me and a comma. 0, 11, that's weird. Redeem it one more time. There we go, one more time. 0, 111 now. I'll tell you exactly why it's doing that. What we need to do now to fix this, go back into our deck, edit the commands, and I'll tell you where we've gone wrong here, alright? This took me a while to figure out, but what it is when we're getting the value here in getBox and saving it to a variable, I assumed that if it found a number and it pulled a number out, that it'll treat that as a real number. It does not. It treats it as a free string. It doesn't know that it's a number, it thinks it could be anything basically. For all it's concerned, it could be like a string of letters, a word, maybe. Whatever. So it treats it as such. It doesn't treat it as a number, it just treats it as a string of random characters. What we need to do is change that information that we got in user streak and change it and tell it to treat it as a real number. God, I hope this makes sense. What we're going to do, we're going to click the plus icon here. We're going to numbers, text and variables, and bring to number. Guess what that does? I'm going to call it, you can call it what you want as long as you can remember what it is afterwards. I'm calling it user streak real because it's taking the information from user streak and turning it into a real. As in, a real is a number, a real number. And then we put user streak here. So again, yellow box, so it's looking for a variable name. So we're taking the content of the variable user streak, converting it to a number and saving that number to another variable called user streak real. Then we want to use these buttons here, the up arrow to move it up in the order. So underneath there. So it needs to be under the get box command where we save it to user streak. Immediately after we convert it to a real number saved into this variable, which means we now have to change the set local variable command to change user streak real, and also the set box command underneath that to use user streak real. And I'm also going to change the variable here to user streak real. Save and close. And I tell you what, let's give this a name as well. User streaking. You call it what you want again. Give it any color you want. Cool. One last step. I'm going to open the tutorial file. I'm going to delete my entry once again. Save it. Back to OBS. We're going to redeem this one more time. I've made the mistake that I told you not to do before. Gotta save all the way out for it to make the change. So that means I'm going to have to open the file one more time. Do you know what? It's good that I make the mistake so I can show you what happens. There we go. Try this again. Back into OBS. Redeem tutorial. Hey fans, Mr. Tom FTW is on a streak of 1 stream. I mean, it says streams, but I don't care. Redeem it again. 2 streams. Redeem it again. 3 streams. One more time, just for good luck. 4 streams. So now it's working exactly as we want. One final step. Back to manage rewards. We're going to edit the reward we got set up for this. We're going to go to cooldown and limits. We're going to turn that on. Limit redemptions per user per stream. How many times can a user, an individual user, use this command per stream? Once. We want them to be able to redeem it only once per stream. Save. And now, that means we've got a redemption reward for your channel that you can trigger once and add a number to basically an array that's saved as a file on your computer. There's more we can do with this that I haven't really gotten into yet. I've already had requests from people to say, is there any way that this can be done for a user just entering a chat message into any chat message into stream? Maybe is the answer. I'll have to look into it. I've also had people asking, is it possible to make an on-screen leaderboard taking the contents of that file and like displaying the top 10 maybe? And the answer is, I imagine there will be. I haven't looked into it yet. Maybe if this video is popular, if it gets lots of views, maybe if a lot of people react, interact with it, maybe I'll, look into it and make another video. But there is all sorts you can do with this. Like, for instance, there is play sound effect. You could play a sound effect every time someone triggers it. However, SAMMI, because it's built using GameMaker Studio, only accepts OGG files, nothing else. So if you can convert your sound files to OGG files or OGG files or whatever you want to call them, you're away, but otherwise you're kind of stuck on that one. There are plenty of commands for you to mess with, have an experiment maybe. I always say when you're programming, when you're coming up with commands and whatever, just figure stuff out. You could show an image for a certain number of seconds. Source change visibility. So you could name within this scene, show a video of Mr. Blobby, make it visible, copy that, paste it again, make it invisible after 20,000 milliseconds, which is 20 seconds, right? Make this source visible 20 seconds later, make it invisible again. That kind, I'm not going to test that. And that's the kind of joy of doing stuff like this, is kind of experimenting and figuring out what you can do. But like I say, if this is something that people find is a good idea, and, you know, give me encouragement to make more videos like this, is what I'm trying to say. Subscribe to me, comment on the video, like it, share it around with friends. Encourage me, and I'll make more, I promise. But for now, we've got ourselves a basic, you know, stream streak command for users to use. Hopefully it adds something to your streams, and your viewers like it. I'll leave it there for now. Have a good one, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.